I regret belittling men. At 63, I've ended up alone. Oh, but at least you have that high-flying career, don't you, girl boss? You got that male privilege you wanted. Wasn't it worth the trade? You don't need no man. Oh, I've always imagined I would end up married with two wonderful children and living in a house in the countryside. I have paid a hefty price for my so-called liberation. Yeah, this woman right here, she is living male privilege. This is what confuses me is that women were dumb enough to fall for that lie, that working yourself into an early grave thanklessly is somehow a male privilege. They rushed into the job market. They wanted that. Like they went from having a man work for them to provide for them so they can have a relatively easy life to doing the work themselves. Yeah, us guys are like, okay, have at it, girlfriend. Like I've been saying since the dawn of my channel, women's liberation was actually men's liberation. Because us guys are the ones now that don't have to worry about parasites attaching themselves to us anymore. Or rather, we can just swat them away. Yeah, us guys don't have to pay for other people that aren't carrying their weight anymore. We're the ones that got set free. Now, a few years ago, I went to Italy with my then boyfriend, James. As we sat tucking into a plate of frutti di mare at a seaside restaurant, I struck up a conversation with the waiter in Italian. While I was enjoying myself, James sat glumly and fiddled awkwardly with his phone. Back in the hotel room, he asked why I had ignored him. By speaking in a language he didn't understand, he said I had managed to make him feel small. Oh, God, this is actually a good point. The type of person who would do this, who would speak to someone else in a language they know you don't understand for an extended period. I mean, a little bit's fine if you just want to show off. Hey, I speak this language. Oh, yeah, that's cute. Nice. Congratulations. But to carry on an entire conversation like that, these are exactly the type of people that get the most mad when you pull out your phone and start playing with your phone instead of paying attention to them. It's pretty much the same thing. Man, well, what do you think you're signaling here when you're speaking in a language the other person doesn't understand? Yeah, you're basically telling them, hey, my conversation with this waiter is more important to me than you. So I'm going to sit here and talk with this waiter for 10 minutes while you just do whatever you want. But then you do the same thing to them. You let them know, rolling these Hogans on my phone is more important to me than you. So I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. You do whatever you want. They get so mad at you. It's only okay when they do it. And that's true. Like if you got people speaking in a language you don't understand right in front of you, it's pretty safe to assume they're talking about you too. Which is why it's always funny to hide that you also understand the language. And then you just, repeat some of the stuff they were saying after the other person leaves. Great way to embarrass somebody. I could see his point. I spent quite a while chatting away, oblivious to how he must be feeling. Then I went on to joke that as the Italian speaker, I would order for us. After all, he didn't know what uso buco meant. I was showing off. At least she has the self-awareness to admit she was just showing off. But if you're going to do that, I mean, don't get mad when the other person gets turned off by that. Like, oh, okay, look, so these women, they always complain when men do things like this. They, oh, are you that insecure with your masculinity? You have such a tiny dick. You have to keep acting like this to show off. And then as soon as they have the ability to do so, they behave the same way. They know exactly what they're doing. This is intentional. And it wasn't the first time something like this had happened to me. I've always taken the driving seat, been determined to get the last word, and was too busy with books to master the art of charm. And congratulations, you've arrived at the end of that road. If you're one of the rare few women that's actually fine being single, like you're introverted as all hell and you want to stay single, this is you winning. But if you actually wanted a relationship and a family, you picked the wrong path. I'm convinced the reason I'm still booking a table for one at the age of 63 instead of having settled with a significant other is because, like so many whammons of my generation, feminism has ruined my love life. Don't blame this one on feminism. I can guarantee you throughout this woman's entire life, she's had family members and friends and maybe even some strangers warning her, but she knew better. She's a strong woman who don't need no man. She's a girl boss. She's the one that chose to ignore all of them until after it's too late. Instead of empowering us, those ideals of the second wave feminists made us believe marriage and domesticity were to be avoided like the plague and that men were competition rather than partners. And that part right there, that is what ultimately turned men away from them. Men don't want competitors. That's not what men look for in a romantic relationship. So once it becomes obvious that a woman is going to girl boss you constantly, that's when most guys are looking for ways to end the relationship. Like, yeah, this obviously ain't going to work out. Like, I want a partner who could support me, not someone who I'm going to have to fight every night after coming home from work. Yeah, that's actually a good point. This whole article could be viewed as a humble brag about how she's bragging about she's having the time of her life. I think she's trying to convince herself of that. If she really was having such a good time, do you think she'd need to rub it in anyone's face? I mean, maybe a few specific individuals who wronged her in the past, but otherwise, like this woman, like her future is Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor is the final destination of feminism. That's what's going to wait all of them. I might have a successful career as a writer and a broadcaster, but I've never had children or been married, and my longest relationship lasted 8 years. That's surprisingly long in current year, to be honest. I regret this. I've always imagined I would end up married with two wonderful children living in a house in the countryside. I paid a hefty price for my so-called liberation. Yeah, meanwhile, men are the ones that are actually liberated because us guys, we're a lot more solitary in general. We prefer it this way. Yeah, I was 17 and a pupil at Godolphin in Latimer, one of Britain's most academic institutions, when I was introduced to the women's liberation movement. And you didn't recognize it as being the privilege movement, huh? It offered such hope and excitement. We spent our lunch break soaking up feminazi mantras of Germaine Greer and Betty Friedan. Act like a man, they cried as they burnt their bras and demonized the housework and the family. Yeah, only for them to ultimately realize that men are much better at acting like a man than women are. So they tried to directly compete in our arena, and it's not going too well for them. It turns out they can't really handle it. Well, by the time I was 25, clutching a degree in French and Italian. Yeah, unless you're going to be like some fucking CIA agent operating in those countries, what are you going to do with that? Or like a court interpreter, maybe? I don't know. Well, I was a bright, confident feminazi, keen to flex her intellectual muscles and never let a man get the last word. And that's why you've been single this whole time. I read Nietzsche for fun, and my bedside table has always buckled beneath the weight of substantial, intellectually challenging books, like Twilight. Or that Morning Glory, like Minotaur milking book, whatever it was called. At first, men loved my wit and intelligence. I'm actually wondering, did this woman not understand that those men were just humoring her to get in her pants? Yeah, you're such a breath of fresh air. I love talking with you. You're the first woman I've met who stimulates me, they trill. Because they're trying to butter you up so they could get in your pants. That's what they were doing. And notice that doesn't happen anymore now that you're way past the wall. Yeah, that was until I lectured them for the umpteenth time on the virtues of modernism. You never win an argument against Kate, one man said as he watched me outsmart yet another potential lover. Subtext, don't bother. Yeah, and that's why it was just at first, right? At first, they buttered her up. They told her what she wanted to hear, hoping to get in her pants. Once it was obvious that they're not going to get in her pants, they moved on. That's what happened here. I don't know if this woman is just pretending to be ignorant or if she really didn't know that's what was happening. But like for the benefit of any like the three women that may watch this, that's what was happening in this situation. Those guys wanted to sleep with her, so they put up with her annoying ass, but they're not willing to put up with her forever. Once it was obvious she was not going to put out, they moved on. I can guarantee you that's what was happening here. Maybe if they listened to the male perspective more often instead of dismissing it, they wouldn't be surprised by things like this. Now, men have called me intimidating, scary, opinionated. Well, all of those words they used because calling you a bitch would be too offensive. But that's what they meant. They meant to call you a bitch. And now I see that not only was I trying to prove I was their intellectual equal or superior, I was treating every encounter with a man like he was my adversary. And that is exactly what the problem is. Like going back to what I said minutes ago. Guys don't want a competitor. They want a partner. So once it's obvious you're going to contribute nothing but conflict to the relationship, they move on. If a date bought me a bouquet of flowers instead of smiling and putting them in a vase of water, I would bite their head off. Now, can't you buy me some nice olive oil or balsamic vinegar? I said with an eye roll to one hapless suitor as he stood wilting faster than the fragrant offering he held in his hand. He had bothered to think about making me happy, and I crushed it for him. I doubt that guy ever came back after that. Like, that is a massive fucking red flag right there. Huge red flag. I place so much importance on finding a strong man who could match me that I forgot men are people with feelings. Indeed, I forgot I had feelings and hid my softness. Now I see that I longs to be loved, but I was too scared to be vulnerable. I was using my sharp mind to protect my all too soft heart against yet further rejection. So this is a woman who was a bitch trying to claim, no, I was actually a tsundere. Nah, no, you weren't. That only works in anime when you can actually see into the mind of the character and know that she's not actually a bitch. She's just a little bit awkward. And another thing I regret deeply is my tally of one night stands when I was younger. Yeah, okay, that's another reason those guys stopped. So the guys that got what they wanted had no reason to stick around. I just remember thinking it would be uncool to say no to the men I met at parties or dated, but I struggled to enjoy it. There was always a disconnect. That this was abundantly clear the morning after. I lay there waiting for a sign of affection. He would be singing a triumphant Had Her song in the shower, a quick cheerio when he was gone. That's right. This right here, this is the fate of the girl boss. You're not wife material. You're one night stand material. If you were wife material, these guys would be trying to have a long-term permanent relationship with you. But this was the guys basically letting you know, yeah, this is all you're good for. And instead of learning, you just got mad. And while I pretended to enjoy it, I felt uncomfortable about sex so early on, I felt empty and used. In this case, your feelings are correct. You were being used. You were nothing more than a sex object to these guys. But hey, that's what feminism wanted, right? This is women's empowerment and liberation. Now women can go out and be just as promiscuous as men. And meanwhile, the men who only want to use women for sex are like, really? Oh, hell yeah. Let's go, man. We need more of this feminism. And then after they're done playing with all of these feminists, they marry a traditional woman. Oh, man, that pisses them off. In my generation of whammons were encouraged to have sex like a man, in other words, have casual sex, but it backfired. Exactly like everyone was warning you. Everyone except for the feminists was warning you about this, but you're smarter than them, right? You always have to have the last word. You know better. And this is the result. And fast forward to now, the idea that whammons are different from men and that casual sex can be harmful to us is gaining traction. Took long enough. In her latest book, A New Guide to Sex in the 21st Century, a young adult adaptation, Louise Perry explores how sexual revolution impacted women's negatively and led to unwanted consequences. As in giving the Playboys exactly what they wanted. They no longer had to even pretend to put in a token effort. That they could literally just hit on some random feminist at a party and get everything they wanted and never have to see her again. This is paradise for men that just want to use women for sex. She argues that casual sex, dating apps, prawn, and the normalization of sexual kinks are putting women at risk. Although contraception has reduced the chances of pregnancy, she points to a risk of contracting diseases or being a victim of violence in a culture where premarital sex is the norm. So you're distracting from the real issue. That's fine though. That's to be expected from women. But yeah, if you're being promiscuous, whether you're a man or a woman, yeah, disease is always a concern. She believes that society would benefit from returning to traditional values about sex. Well, here's the thing though. There's no point in returning to traditional values about sex unless you return to traditional values about everything else. Because otherwise, like, what are you going to sell to men? Oh, hey, you guys need to let these feminist banshees into your life for no return, like and you get nothing for it. You can't expect to have sex with them. You just have to put up with them constantly creating drama for you, and you get nothing for it. They already have that. It's called marriage. But anyway, you're going to have to roll back a lot, not just views about sex. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for a return to the 50s when women were on the shelf by 30 and getting a suitable husband was their goal in life. So basically, you didn't actually learn anything is what you're saying, right? You still want to have your cake and eat it too? But I wonder if by refusing to show any chinks in my intellectual armor, I'm the one who is losing out. Look, it all depends. Like I said earlier, if you're one of the rare few that doesn't actually want a relationship and wants to focus on your passion and is perfectly fine not leaving a biological legacy but an intellectual one, yeah, you actually didn't lose. You won. But if all you wanted was to be a housewife all along, yeah, you're a fucking loser. Yeah, you may be a loser who's a millionaire, but you're still a fucking loser. Clearly, you're miserable. And whilst I'll never be a giggly man pleaser, it's too late for that anyway. It's just cringy when a 63-year-old does it. I have no intention of playing second fiddle to a man. Again, you're 63. No man wants you anyway. I mean, you might be able to find a nice 90-year-old. The confident signals I've been giving all these years are at odds with what was going on inside. I have learned to step back and let things go. I've realized that things mustn't always veer towards the satisfaction of the self. I am struck by how easy and peaceful it feels to let my dates and boyfriends take the lead. So what she's basically saying is she just needed a good dicking. And she didn't get one early on in life, so now she's a lost cause. It's not a case of dumbing down or morphing into a Stepford Wayman's, but simply dialing down a bit of me and letting them shine. If my diary's wide open, go on, I dare you. Nah, the only thing Wayman's like this are good for is to serve as a warning to others at this point. So more of an intellectual curiosity than anything. But there's not going to be anyone looking for a date. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, if anything, this woman is suffering from the same problem that a lot of these strong, empowered women suffer from. The types of men that they view as being in their league, they are way outside of those men's leagues. They never stop to think about that. The type of guy that these women are pursuing has access to way better women than them. Why would he settle for them? See, these women refuse to settle for anything else, and they don't even realize that they're not the catch they think they are. Because like that woman admitted, they're pretending to be men. They're acting like men. They don't realize that men aren't attracted to the same things in a partner that women are. If they were, they'd be gay, which means they still wouldn't want you. So they just end up, backed into a corner like this, alone and with no sympathy. Yeah, younger women's won't listen anyway. Yeah, that's a recurring theme on this channel. Like I always try to read articles like this. Even if they do lack a lot of self-awareness, like at least some of these women are admitting mistakes were made. But it's too late for them to learn any lessons from this. And the younger generation of women are just going to ignore them and blow them off. It literally is the gender relations version of real communism has never been tried before. You could warn them all you want. They always know better until it's too late. So my advice is try to help them as like just enough so that your conscience is clean. And that's different for everybody. Some people are fine with doing nothing at all. Others have to keep pushing it for like a year or two before they give up. But give them a chance. Tell them what they need to do to fix themselves. And if they refuse, I mean, they're a lost cause. Just leave them and move on. Don't look back in the mirror. Just go on with your life as if they were never in it. There's better things in life than washed up 304s that hate you anyway.